high above the rust-colored dunes, where the thin atmosphere clings to the ground like a fading memory, there is silence. Absolute, timeless silence. We are standing on the surface of Mars, the fourth rock, a world that has been frozen in a state of suspended animation for billions of years. Look out at the horizon. It is not the blue curve we know from home. It is a sharp, ochre line that separates the dusty ground from the ink-black void of space. Here, the sun is smaller. It hangs in the sky like a coin, shining with a cold, distant light. It does not warm your skin the way it does on Earth. It merely illuminates the vast, empty canyons. The shadows here are long and deep. They stretch across the craters, hiding secrets in the dark that have not seen the light of day since the solar system was young. But look up, just above the horizon. In this lonely, frozen sky, the red planet is not entirely alone. It has companions. Two small, misshapen travelers that have been dancing with Mars for eons. They are not the majestic round pearl that is our own moon. They are different. They are scarred. They are lumpy. They look like potatoes thrown into the void by a careless giant. They are Phobos and Deimos, fear and panic. Names given to them by ancient myths born of war. But here, in the reality of the cosmos, they are not warriors. They are prisoners, caught in a gravitational web they cannot escape. Tonight, we will leave the surface. We will float upwards, drifting through the thin carbon dioxide clouds to meet these lonely wanderers. We will trace their scars. We will learn their tragic history. And we will understand why in the vast clockwork of the universe, nothing, not even a moon, lasts forever. Let your breathing slow down, match the rhythm of the orbiting worlds, in and out. The gravity here is light. You are floating. You are safe. You are watching the cosmos unfold in slow motion. To understand Phobos and Deimos, we must rewind the clock. Not just back a few centuries, but back to the beginning, before there were eyes to look up at the sky, before there was life to sleep or dream. Imagine the solar system 4.5 billion years ago. It was not the orderly clockwork mechanism we see today. It was a shooting gallery. It was chaos. Billions of rocks, remnants of the creation of the sun, were flying through the darkness. They collided. They shattered. They screamed silently in the vacuum. Between the orbit of Mars and the giant Jupiter lies the asteroid belt, a graveyard of a planet that never formed. It is a ring of debris, a collection of cosmic leftovers. The prevailing theory, the story that astronomers whisper to explain the odd shapes of Phobos and Deimos, is the story of the capture. They say that Phobos and Deimos were once free. They were asteroids, born in the dark, cold gap between the planets. They belonged to the belt. They were ancient rocks, rich in carbon, dark as coal, drifting aimlessly through the void. They had no master. They answered only to the distant tug of the sun. But then something happened. A nudge from Jupiter's massive gravity, a collision with another rock. Their paths changed. They were pushed inward, toward the inner solar system, toward the red planet. Imagine the scale of this event, a rock the size of a city tumbling through the dark. It approaches Mars, it feels the pull of the planet, it moves faster and faster. In a normal encounter, it would swing around the planet and be flung back out into deep space, like a stone from a slingshot. But the geometry was perfect, or perhaps tragic. Mars reached out with its invisible hand of gravity. It grabbed these passing wanderers. It slowed them down. It trapped them. The freedom of the asteroid belt was gone. They were no longer wanderers. They became satellites, bound to circle their captor forever. This is why they look the way they do. Phobos is not a sphere. It is an irregular lump, measuring about 22 kilometers across at its widest point. If you held it in your hand, it would feel light, porous like a pumice stone. It is dark, one of the darkest objects in the solar system. It reflects almost no light. It is a shadow circling a rusted world. And Deimos, smaller, smoother, drifting further away. But is this the only story? Some scientists look at the orbits of these moons, so circular, so aligned with Mars' equator, and they shake their heads. No, they say, a captured asteroid would have a wild, elliptical orbit. These moons are too perfect. So there is another story, a more violent one, the giant impact. Imagine a massive object the size of a protoplanet smashing into the young Mars. The crust of the planet shatters. Molten rock is blasted into space. A ring of fire and debris forms around the red planet, like the rings of Saturn, but made of magma and dust. Over millions of years, the fire cools, the magma hardens into rock, the dust clumps together, gravity acts as a sculptor. And from this ring of destruction, Phobos and Deimos coalesced. Are they adopted children, captured from the cold asteroid belt? Or are they flesh and blood of Mars itself, torn from the planet in a moment of ancient violence? We may not know the answer for certain yet, but as we drift closer to Phobos, we can see the history written on its skin. Let us drift closer to the larger brother, Phobos. As we approach, the first thing you notice is the scar. It is a crater, but to call it a crater feels insufficient. It is a wound, a massive concavity that takes up nearly a third of the moon's width. This is the Stickney crater. Named after Chloe Angeline Stickney Hall, the mathematician who calculated the orbits, helping discover these moons in 1877. Looking at Stickney, you can feel the force of the impact that created it. Something huge struck Phobos long ago. It hit with such force that it almost shattered the moon completely. Phobos groaned under the blow. Shock waves rippled through its body. If you look closely at the rim of the crater and trailing away across the moon's surface, you can see grooves, long parallel trenches carved into the rock. For years, these were a mystery. Were they scratches from the impact? Were they stretch marks? Imagine standing inside Stickney crater. The walls rise up miles above your head. The horizon is close because the moon is so small. You weigh almost nothing here. A jump could send you drifting for minutes before you touch the ground again. And looming overhead, filling the sky, is Mars. On Earth, our moon looks like a small disk, but here, on Phobos, Mars is a titan. It is 6,400 times larger and 2,500 times brighter than the full moon looks from Earth. It dominates everything. You can see the dust storms swirling in the Valles Marineris Canyon. You can see the white caps of the polar ice. It feels oppressive. And there is a reason for that feeling. Phobos is not just close, it is too close. It orbits only 6,000 kilometers above the surface. That is closer than any other moon in the solar system. It moves so fast that it outpaces the rotation of Mars. If you were on Mars, you would see Phobos rise in the west, cross the sky in just 4 hours, and set in the east. It does this twice every single Martian day, a frantic, hurried pace. But this speed comes at a price. Phobos is falling. Every 100 years, it gets 2 meters closer to Mars. It is a slow, agonizing death spiral. The gravity of the planet is pulling it down, inch by inch, century by century. The tidal forces, the same invisible hands that pull the oceans on Earth, are stretching Phobos. They are pulling the front of the moon harder than the back. The moon is creaking. Those grooves we saw earlier, some scientists believe they are stretch marks. The structural integrity of Phobos is failing. It is a doomed world. In 30 to 50 million years, a blink of an eye in cosmic time, Phobos will reach the Roche limit. This is the point of no return. The gravity of Mars will become stronger than the gravity holding the moon together. And then, silently, gently, Phobos will come apart. It will not crash into the surface in a ball of fire. It will simply unzip. It will crumble. The rocks, the dust, the crater named Stickney will all drift apart. Mars will gain a ring, a beautiful dusty ring to rival Saturn's glory. The moon will die to become a crown for its captor. But that is a story for the distant future. For now, Phobos continues its frantic race, a sentinel that is slowly walking to its execution. Let us leave this tragic figure. Let us push away from the scarred surface, back into the blackness. We have another destination, further out, where the silence is even deeper. To Deimos. The deep gravity thrum fades away, replaced by a high-pitched crystalline shimmer sound, very ethereal, like wind chimes in a vacuum. Soft, slow piano notes begin. We leave the doomed Phobos behind. We let it continue its frantic, spiraling race against time. We turn our gaze outward, away from the red planet, into the deeper darkness. 23,000 kilometers away from Mars, there drifts another world, Deimos. In mythology, Deimos is the twin of Phobos, panic to fear. But here, in the quiet reality of space, they are nothing alike. If Phobos is a scarred warrior, bruised and battered, Deimos is a ghost.
It is smaller, only about 12 kilometers across. It is a tiny island in a vast ocean of night. As we approach, you will notice something strange. Phobos was sharp, with jagged ridges and deep grooves, but Deimos looks soft. Its craters are not deep holes, they are shallow depressions. Its edges are rounded. It looks like it has been dusted with powdered sugar. This sugar is regolith, fine space dust. Over billions of years, meteorites have struck this little moon. But unlike on Phobos, where the debris might be lost to space or Mars, here the dust settled. It filled in the cracks. It smoothed over the scars. It created a blanket of silence over the entire world. Imagine stepping onto the surface of Deimos. You would feel almost nothing. The gravity is so weak that you are not really standing, you are merely docking. If you were to run, you would launch yourself into orbit. If you were to throw a baseball, it would never come back. It would sail off into the stars, a new satellite of the sun. Stand here for a moment. Feel the profound stillness. The dust beneath your boots is billions of years old, undisturbed by wind or rain. Now, look back towards Mars. From Phobos, Mars was a terrifying giant that swallowed the sky. But from here, on Deimos, Mars is a piece of art. It hangs in the black velvet, glowing with a soft, rusty light. It is large, about 30 times larger than the full moon looks from Earth, but it feels distant, safe. You can see the polar caps clearly. You can see the dark markings of the continents. It watches you like a giant, unblinking eye. But Deimos is lonely. While Phobos is falling inward, destined to be destroyed, Deimos is drifting away. It is slowly, agonizingly slowly, retreating from Mars. It steals a tiny bit of rotational energy from the planet, using it to push itself higher, further into the dark. One day, far in the future, long after Phobos has been turned into a ring of dust, Deimos will break the invisible chain. It will slip free from Mars's gravity. It will drift off into the solar system, a lost child, wandering the void forever. There is a melancholy beauty in that. To be a satellite is to be trapped. To be free is to be alone. Deimos chooses loneliness. Breathe in the solitude. The stars here are so bright. Without an atmosphere to scatter the light, they do not twinkle. They burn with a steady, piercing white light. You are on a raft, drifting gently on a black ocean that has no shore.
Deimos and Phobos are not unique. They are merely the ones that got caught. If we look past Mars, out towards the giant Jupiter, we find their family, the place where they likely were born, the main asteroid belt. It is a vast, donut-shaped ring of debris circling the sun between the rock of Mars and the gas of Jupiter. It is the could-have-been, the building blocks of a planet that never formed because Jupiter's massive gravity kept stirring the pot, keeping the rocks from joining together. Let us drift through this region. It is not crowded like in the movies. You cannot dodge rocks here. The distances are immense. One asteroid might be millions of kilometers from its nearest neighbor. It is a desert of vacuum, dotted with lonely mountains of rock and metal. Meet the queen of the belt, Ceres. Unlike the jagged Phobos or the lumpy Deimos, Ceres is round. It is a dwarf planet. It has gravity strong enough to pull itself into a sphere. Deep inside its craters, like Oketer, there are bright white spots,
salt deposits, remnants of an ancient subsurface ocean. Imagine that, water, salt, and ice, hidden in the dark, millions of miles from Earth. And then there is Vesta. Vesta is a fossil from the dawn of time. It is dense, with an iron core like Earth. At its south pole stands a mountain, Rhea Silvia, that is 2 times taller than Mount Everest. A mountain that reaches up into the vacuum, built by a collision so violent it nearly destroyed the world. Phobos and Deimos, looking at them now, they seem like smaller cousins of these giants. They share the same dark, carbon-rich skin. They share the same silent history. The solar system is a family tree written in gravity and stone. The Earth is the fortunate child, blessed with water and life. Mars is the rusted brother, frozen in time. The asteroids are the fragments of what could have been. And floating there between the worlds are the wanderers. As we drift through this belt of silent stones, feel the rhythm of their orbits. They do not hurry. They have been circling the sun for 4 billion years. They will circle for 4 billion more. Round and round, a cosmic carousel that never stops. There is a comfort in this repetition. In a human life, everything changes. People come and go, seasons shift. But here, the orbit is eternal. The rock you see today is the same rock that was there when the dinosaurs looked up. It is the same rock that will be there when the sun eventually expands and swallows the sky. Nothing is urgent here. Nothing is late. Everything happens exactly when it is supposed to happen. Let yourself synchronize with this timeline. You are not late. You are not rushing. You are simply orbiting.
Drifting back from the cold asteroid belt, we return to Mars. But let us use the eyes of our imagination to peel back the layers of time. Let us look beneath the red dust. If you were to stand here on the edge of the Hellas Basin 4 billion years ago, you would not need a spacesuit. You would not see a dry, rusted desert. You would see blue. Mars was once a water world. The scientific rovers, Curiosity, Perseverance, wandering the surface today, they are not just driving on rocks, they are driving on ancient riverbeds. They are exploring the bottom of dried-up lakes. Close your eyes and listen. Can you hear it? The ghost of an ocean? Imagine a vast northern sea covering nearly 1/3 of the planet. It was deeper than the Mediterranean. Waves, driven by a thicker atmosphere, rolled across the surface for millions of years. They crashed against the red cliffs of Olympus Mons. They carved the winding valleys that still scar the planet today. Water is a gentle sculptor, but it is persistent. It smoothed the stones. It laid down layers of clay and sediment. It rained on Mars. Soft, steady rain falling on a warm afternoon. Rivers rushing down from the highlands, carrying silt and sand, creating deltas that fan out like the veins of a leaf. For a brief, shining moment in cosmic history, Mars was a twin to Earth. It was warm, it was wet, it was alive with potential. But Mars is a tragic figure. It is a planet that lost its protection. Its magnetic field, the invisible shield that protects a planet from the solar wind, collapsed. The core of the planet cooled and solidified.
the heartbeat of Mars, stopped. Without that shield, the sun became a thief. The solar wind began to strip away the atmosphere, layer by layer. The air grew thin, the pressure dropped, the water could no longer stay liquid. The oceans evaporated into space, the rivers froze into the ground, the rain stopped falling. The planet began to rust. The iron in the soil reacted with the remaining oxygen, turning the world blood red. Now the water is gone. Or is it? It is merely sleeping, hiding. Beneath the polar ice caps, buried under kilometers of dust, vast glaciers still exist. The memory of the ocean is frozen in time, waiting in the dark. If you were to dig deep enough, you would find the ice, the ancient water that once felt the warmth of the young sun. It is a silent tragedy, a world that went to sleep and never woke up.
The day on Mars is almost exactly the same length as a day on Earth. 24 hours and 37 minutes. A sol. As the sol comes to an end, the temperature begins to plummet. The thin air cannot hold the heat. The cold of space descends rapidly. But before the darkness takes over, there is a spectacle, the Martian sunset. On Earth, we are used to red sunsets. Our thick atmosphere scatters the blue light, letting the reds and oranges pass through. But on Mars, the rules are reversed. The dust in the atmosphere is fine, like smoke. It scatters the red light, allowing the blue light to penetrate near the sun. So as you sit on this dune, watching the small, distant sun dip below the horizon, you see something alien. You see something breathtaking. The sky around the sun turns a cool, dusty blue, a twilight of sapphire and slate. It is a cold light, a lonely light. Imagine the silence of this sunset. There are no birds singing the day to a close. There is no rustle of leaves, just the long, stretching shadows of the rocks. The sun shrinks, fading into the blue haze until it is just a bright star winking out behind the mountains. And then the stars return. Because the atmosphere is so thin, there is no lingering twilight. The dark comes fast, and with the dark comes the cold. 70 degrees below zero. Carbon dioxide freezes out of the air, forming dry ice frost on the rocks. The planet puts on a coat of white frost for the night. It is a cycle of freezing and thawing that has happened billions of times, a lullaby of temperature. Sleep now, red world. Sleep under your blanket of frost. Even in its deep sleep, Mars breathes. It has seasons just like Earth. Because its axis is tilted, it nods to the sun and then leans away. Winter comes to the poles. The carbon dioxide in the atmosphere freezes solid. The atmosphere itself thins out, depositing feet of dry ice snow. Then comes spring. The sun warms the ice. It sublimates, turning directly from solid to gas. Geysers of gas erupt from the ice caps, carving spidery patterns into the ground, the spiders of Mars. But the most famous season is the season of dust. Sometimes a small storm begins in a crater. The wind picks up the finest grains of oxidized iron. The dust absorbs the sunlight, warming the air, which makes the wind blow harder. The storm grows. It merges with other storms.
Soon the entire planet is wrapped in a blanket of dust. From space, Mars loses its features. The volcanoes, the canyons, the craters, they all disappear behind a uniform orange veil. It looks chaotic, but from the surface, it is a time of dimness. The sun is blotted out. The sky becomes a dark, rusty ceiling. The world enters a twilight state that can last for months. It is not a violent hurricane. The atmosphere is too thin to knock you over. It is a soft, relentless burial. The dust settles everywhere. It fills the crevices. It covers the solar panels of our sleeping robots, Spirit, Opportunity, putting them to rest. It creates a soft, muffled world, a world tucked in for a long slumber. Wait out the storm. Let the dust settle. There is no rush. The geology of Mars moves in slow motion. 1,000,000 years is just a heartbeat here.
In this vast, silent world, amidst the canyons and the craters, there are monuments. Not monuments built of stone by ancient civilizations, but monuments of metal and glass sent from another world. They are the envoys of Earth, the rovers. Let us visit the Gusev crater. Here, half buried in the rust-colored sand, sits a traveler named Spirit. It has been silent since 2010. For 6 years it roamed these plains. It looked at the sun. It tasted the rocks. It sent pictures back to a world millions of miles away. But then the winter came. The trap of soft sand caught its wheels. The dust covered its solar panels, and it went to sleep. It sits there now, perfectly preserved in the freezing cold, a small, brave machine, motionless under the alien stars. The wind gently piles more dust upon its back. It has become part of the landscape, a statue dedicated to curiosity. Further away, on the Meridiani planum, lies its twin, Opportunity. Oppie. The robot that was supposed to live for 90 days, but lived for 15 years. It drove further than a marathon runner. It discovered the evidence of ancient water. It was the eyes of humanity on a desolate world. But then, in 2018, the great global dust storm, the one we watched earlier, swallowed the planet. The sky turned black. The sun disappeared. Opportunity called home one last time. Its final message, translated from data, was essentially, "My battery is low, and it's getting dark." And then, silence. The storm passed, the sun returned, but Opportunity did not wake up. It sleeps there now, in Perseverance Valley, alone. There is something profoundly touching about these sleeping machines. They are the only things on this entire planet that have a story. They are the only things that were born somewhere else. They are waiting for a rescue that may not come for centuries, or perhaps they are simply resting. Their job is done. The long commute is over. Rest now, little traveler. You have earned your sleep. Not all the envoys are sleeping. In the deep bowl of Gale Crater, there is movement. Curiosity, the nuclear-powered geologist. Unlike Spirit and Opportunity, it does not need the sun to survive. It carries a heart of plutonium. It is warm inside. Watch it move. It does not race. It crawls, centimeters per second. Crunch,
whir, crunch. It is the only sound of movement on the entire planet. Every now and then, it stops. It turns its camera head. It takes a selfie with its robotic arm, not out of vanity, but to check for damage, to see how much the harsh environment has bitten into its metal skin. Its wheels are tattered, punctured by the sharp, uneroded rocks of Mars. Every hole tells a story of a mile crossed in solitude. And in Jezero crater, Perseverance. It collects samples of rock. It places them in small metal tubes and drops them on the ground, like Hansel and Gretel leaving breadcrumbs. It is leaving gifts for the future, caches of stone that perhaps one day human hands will pick up. And nearby, the little helicopter, Ingenuity, the first aircraft to fly on another world. It flew, it danced in the thin air, but now it too has grounded its rotors. It sits silent, a broken wing in the dust. These machines are the loneliest things in the universe. They are programmed to explore, to search, to work, but they do it in absolute isolation. They sing their songs of data to the void, hoping that the big blue dot in the sky is listening. Imagine being Curiosity. The sun sets, the blue twilight fades, the temperature drops to -80. You are all alone in a crater that is billions of years old. But you are not afraid. You are a machine. You simply wait for the sun to rise. You wait for the command from home. Beep. A signal arrives, a voice from Earth, a connection. For a brief moment, the distance vanishes. The robot knows it is not forgotten. And then the work continues, the slow, endless crunch of wheels on the red sand. Crunch, whir, crunch. Let the rhythm of the wheels lull you. It is a steady, reliable heartbeat in the silence.
Leave the craters behind. Leave the dry riverbeds and the lonely machines. Let us travel to the Tharsis region, the roof of the world. Here the crust of Mars buckled and swelled, and here rises the king of all mountains, Olympus Mons. To call it a mountain is an understatement. It is a geological titan. On Earth, we look up at Mount Everest with awe. It pierces the clouds at 8.8 kilometers. But if you were to place Everest next to Olympus Mons, it would look like a child's sandcastle next to a cathedral. Olympus Mons rises 21 kilometers into the black sky. It is 2.5 times the height of Everest. But it is not just the height, it is the width. This mountain is so wide that it would cover the entire country of France. It would swallow the state of Arizona. If you were standing at the base of the mountain, you would not even know you were looking at a volcano. The slope is so gentle, so vast, that the peak would be hidden beyond the curve of the planet. You would simply see a wall of rock rising up forever into the sky. It is a shield volcano, built not by explosive, violent eruptions, but by slow, endless flows of lava, layer upon layer, century upon century. Liquid rock poured out of the ground, spreading like honey, cooling and hardening. Over billions of years, it built a ramp to the stars. Imagine the silence of this construction.
No chaotic explosions, just the slow, steady bleeding of the planet's heat. A river of fire that turned into a mountain of stone. Now the fire is gone. The giant is sleeping. It sits there, casting a shadow that stretches for hundreds of miles across the Martian surface.
Let us begin the ascent. You do not need ropes or climbing gear to scale Olympus Mons. The slope is gentle. You could walk up it. But it is a long walk, a journey that would take weeks. As you hike upwards, the air, already thin at the surface, vanishes almost completely. By the time you are halfway up, you are higher than any commercial airliner flies on Earth. You are leaving the atmosphere behind. Look at the sky. At the base, it was a dusty pink, but here, as we climb past 10 kilometers, 15 kilometers, the pink fades into a deep, bruised purple, and then into black. You are walking on the ground, but your head is in space. The sun shines with a fierce, unfiltered brightness, but the sky is dark. You can see the stars at noon. There is no weather here. The great dust storms that swallow the planet below, they cannot reach you here. You are above the weather. You are looking down on the clouds of dust like an astronaut looking down from orbit. Silence is absolute here. The wind is too thin to carry a sound. If you were to shout, your voice would fall dead from your lips. Finally, we reach the summit, the caldera. It is 80 kilometers wide. You could fit the entire city of London inside this crater and lose it. This is the mouth of the beast, the place where the lava once bubbled and churned. Now it is a flat, frozen plain of rock, surrounded by cliffs that drop 3 kilometers straight down. Stand on the edge, look into the pit. It is peaceful now. The magma chamber deep below has cooled. The heat that built this monster has faded away. It is a monument to a time when Mars was young and violent. Now it is just a high, lonely altar, a place where the planet touches the void. Breathe. The view from here is infinite. You can see the curvature of the horizon. You are standing on the highest solid ground in the solar system. But the true majesty of Olympus Mons is not just at the summit. It is at the edge. Surrounding the base of the volcano is a cliff face, the basal escarpment. Imagine a cliff 6 kilometers high. That is taller than most mountains on Earth, but here it is just the step up onto the volcano's porch. How did these cliffs form? Did the massive weight of the volcano cause the crust to crack and slump? Did ancient glaciers carve away the edges? The mystery remains. Imagine standing at the bottom of these cliffs, a wall of stone rising straight up, blocking out half the sky. Debris from landslides that happened 1 billion years ago lies at your feet. Massive boulders the size of skyscrapers that tumble down in slow motion. Nothing moves here. The landslides have settled. The dust has filled the gaps. The mountain waits. It has waited for 3 billion years. It will wait for the sun to die. It is a reminder of the scale of the universe. We are small. Our lives are short.
Our worries are fleeting, but the mountain remains, solid, unmoving, eternal. Let the stability of the mountain anchor you. You are safe. You are grounded. You are as still as the stone. The deep rumble of the volcano fades, replaced by a high-pitched crystalline sound, like wind blowing over glass bottles. Occasional sounds of ice shifting and cracking, sharp, clear echoes. We leave the sleeping giant of Olympus Mons. We travel north, far north, past the vast, flat lowlands of Vastitas Borealis until the red horizon begins to change. Ahead of us lies a kingdom of white, Planum Boreum, the North Polar Cap. It sits atop the planet like a crown of frozen light. Here, the temperature never rises enough to feel warm. It is a world of permanent winter. But this is not ice as we know it on Earth. It is a mixture. Water ice, hard as rock, frozen for millions of years, forms the base. But covering it, shifting with the seasons, is a layer of dry ice, frozen carbon dioxide. Imagine standing on this ice sheet. It is blindingly bright, reflecting the distant sun. But it is not smooth like a skating rink. It is textured, pitted, scalloped by the wind. The wind here is a sculptor. It spirals out from the center of the pole, driven by the rotation of the planet. It carves massive canyons into the ice. Look at the Chasma Boreale, a canyon grander than the Grand Canyon, but cut into pure ice. Its walls are steep and white, dropping down into shadow. It creates a spiral pattern that covers the entire pole. From space, it looks like a giant white pinwheel frozen in motion, a galaxy of frost. Walk to the edge of the chasma. Look down. The walls are striped. Dark bands of dust alternate with bright bands of ice. These are the polar layered deposits. They are the history books of Mars. Just as trees on Earth have rings that tell the story of their years, Mars has these layers. Each band represents a different era of the planet's climate, a time when the orbit tilted, a time when a dust storm covered the world, a time when the atmosphere was thicker. Millions of years of history are stacked here, perfectly preserved in the cold freezer of the north, waiting to be read. It is a library of time, silent, cold, beautiful. Mars may look dead, but if you watch the poles, you realize the planet is breathing. It has a respiratory system, and the ice caps are its lungs. In the winter, the pole grows. It pulls the atmosphere out of the sky. The carbon dioxide freezes and falls as snow, thickening the cap. The air pressure on the entire planet drops. Mars inhales the cold. In the spring, the sun touches the edge of the cap. The dry ice does not melt into water. It sublimates. It turns instantly from a solid rock into a gas. Poof! It expands. It rushes back into the atmosphere. The planet exhales. This cycle creates strange, alien winds. It drives the weather for the entire globe. And it creates the spiders. Visual note, close-up on the araniforms, dark, spidery shapes appearing on the ice. They look like cracks spreading black ink. Look closely at the surface in spring. Beneath the clear slab of dry ice, the sunlight warms the soil. The ice traps the gas underneath like a pressure cooker. Eventually, the pressure becomes too great. Crack. The ice ruptures, a geyser of gas and dark dust shoots up into the air. The dust falls back down, painting dark, spindly legs on the white ice. They look like spiders crawling across the snow, thousands of them. But they are not alive. They are geological ghosts. They appear in the spring and vanish in the winter, wiped clean by the fresh snow. It is a garden of shadows, growing and dying with the rhythm of the sun. Watch them appear, one by one, a lace pattern of darkness on the purity of the ice. It is delicate. It is fleeting. It is the art of a lonely world.
The deep rumble of the volcanoes fades, replaced by a high-pitched crystalline sound, like wind blowing over glass bottles. Occasional sounds of ice shifting and cracking, sharp, clear echoes. We have walked the volcanoes, we have drifted with the moons, we have stood on the ice. But perhaps the most important place on Mars is not on the surface, it is underneath. Let us descend, down past the ice layers, down into the crust. Here, hidden from the radiation of the sun, hidden from the freezing storms, are the lava tubes. Ancient tunnels carved by flowing magma billions of years ago. When the lava drained away, it left behind empty caves, massive cathedrals of rock underground. They are silent, they are dark, but they are safe. The temperature here is stable, the roof protects against the cosmic rays. If life still exists on Mars, microbes clinging to the warmth of the planet's core, it is here, hiding in the deep. And perhaps one day this is where we will go. We will not build our cities on the surface, exposed to the harsh elements. We will retreat into these caves. We will build our homes inside the veins of the planet. We will bring light to the darkness. We will bring the sound of voices to the silence. But for now, the caves are empty, waiting. The deep rumble of the volcano fades, replaced by a high-pitched, crystalline sound, like wind blowing over glass bottles. Occasional sounds of ice shifting and cracking, sharp, clear echoes. Before we leave this world, before we close our eyes, there is one last thing we must see. Stand on the dunes of the Terra Sabea, look up toward the twilight sky. There, just above the horizon, do you see it? It is not a star, it is a planet. From here, it looks like a bright, sparkling jewel suspended in the black velvet. It shines with a steady, comforting light. That is Earth. That is home. From this distance, 140 million miles away, you cannot see the wars, you cannot see the borders, you cannot hear the noise of the cities or the rush of the freeways. You only see the light. It is strange, isn't it, to stand on a dead world and look back at the living one. To the Martians, if they ever existed, or if we become them in the future, Earth is the evening star. It is the beacon that hangs in the sky, reminding the red dust of what it used to be. Every human being who has ever lived, every king and peasant, every poet and soldier, every mother and father, lived out their lives on that tiny pixel of light. And here you are, floating in the quiet distance, separated by an ocean of vacuum. Feel the distance. It is not scary. It is peaceful. It gives you perspective.
The worries that felt so heavy on that blue dot seem very small from here. The anxieties that kept you awake, they cannot cross the void. Here there is only rock and ice and time. You are safe in the silence of the red world, watching over your home from afar. The deep rumble of the volcano fades, replaced by a high-pitched, crystalline sound, like wind blowing over glass bottles. Occasional sounds of ice shifting and cracking, sharp, clear echoes. Mars is sleeping, but it will not sleep forever. The universe is constantly changing. Nothing is static. Perhaps one day the silence will be broken, not by the wind, but by life. We dream of a green Mars. Imagine, centuries from now, mirrors in orbit reflecting the sun to melt the polar caps, the atmosphere thickening, the pressure rising. The dry ice turns to gas, the sleeping water wakes up from its underground tomb. Rivers flow again through the Grand Canyon of Mars. The red dust turns into brown soil. Seeds, carried from the blue dot, take root. First the microbes, then the moss, then the lichen, painting the rusty rocks with shades of emerald and jade. Trees growing tall in the low gravity, reaching higher than any sequoia on Earth. The air becomes breathable, the sky turns blue. Phobos and Deimos, the lonely jailers, will look down not on a prisoner, but on a garden. It is a beautiful dream, a promise that life finds a way, that even the dead can rise again. But that is a story for the far, far future, a story for another time. For now, Mars needs its rest. It has earned its quiet slumber. Let it sleep under the blanket of dust. Let it dream of the oceans it once held. Our journey is complete. We have walked the craters of Phobos. We have drifted with the ghost of Deimos. We have climbed the cliffs of Olympus. We have touched the ice of the north. The red dust settles. The wheels of the rovers stop crunching. The wind dies down to a whisper. The solar system turns. The great clockwork of gravity continues, tick by tick, year by year. You are part of this rhythm. You are part of this silence. Let go of the gravity. Let yourself float, drifting, dreaming, orbiting. The red planet watches over you. The stars watch over you. Everything is still. Everything is quiet. Everything is at peace. Good night, traveler. Good night, Mars.